I think that patriarchy is a bad way to talk about systemic structures that are oppressive, let's say. Most people that kill themselves are men. Most people that fall out of school are men. Most people that fucking are victims of violent crime are men.
Vast majority of abusers are men, too.
Welcome back to Horseshoe Theory, the only podcast where centrists and leftists can get along, by which I mean yell at each other for 3 hours straight. Our studio is once again joined by radical centrist P.F. Young. And this time we decided it would be fun if we got him to debate studio woke scold We're in Hell. We're in Hell is a woke liberal leftist and also Satanist adjacent. And they argue about Satanism for the first 30 minutes, although we leave that Patreon exclusive because of all the things they talk about that are going to get us demonetized. Sam is a libertarian leftist who is pro-woke. Meanwhile, P.F. Young has some sort of schizophrenic radical centrist take on woke, which is to say he's anti-woke, which is to say he's a Nazi. This is one of the better debates we've moderated here at Horseshoe Theory, so we hope you enjoy.
Well, the reason I flew all the way to Toronto is to, as an enlightened centrist, the joke is I call myself an enlightened centrist, but everyone knows that I'm really a left winger, and so I wanted to give
neo-Nazi.
No, I wanted to give.
You never know what's going to come. The next word going to come out of this.
I wanted to come and give advice to the left on how to do things better. Okay. And basically, my advice to the left is stop being so fucking woke.
Right.
Do you agree with that? You think that's good advice?
Sam is a woke. Sam is like an unapologetically woke leftist.
Am I? I feel like I'm an
sometimes you're apologetically woke. Yeah.
Do you agree that when people say the left is too woke, they are pointing to something very, very true?
I sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't.
Okay.
Like I feel like a lot of the criticisms that come from outside the left to me lack a lot of nuance, whereas I feel like there are plenty of ways of criticizing that. And yeah, like I feel like the I think that they're like one of my takes is that I think that the sort of like emphasis on a lot of like marginalized groups, trans people especially, I think it like is
too much.
No, well, I think it's
stop talking about trans people. Start talking about class
for trans people too. I don't think it helps trans people very much to be like tied to an incredibly unpopular political movement that also doesn't like, especially like mainstream politics, does not actually help trans people very much themselves. And so instead, it's just holding them up to as like a sort of virtue signal without actually providing them with any helpful aid, and then they just get demonized without actually being materially aided.
Why doesn't it help trans people to talk about their issues?
I think it sometimes can talk about their issues, but I also think that it can often I don't think that in like the American context, like Democrats, I don't think actually do support trans people very much in a lot of ways. I think that they will like sometimes like gesture to them to like show their progressive bona fides, but like it doesn't actually they don't actually help them very much.
Depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Particularly the fucking child transition issue should not be the flagship issue of the left.
Yeah. I don't know if it should be the flagship issue.
Okay, because we agreed it was not gonna be a debate bro thing, I'm not gonna go too hard on the issue, but it just
if you don't transition when you're a kid, you're gonna be what do they call it, a Han forever. It's true. A Han.
What I've never heard this term.
A poorly passing trans person. They call them Hans because it's like a kind of a demeaning. Like, okay, Han. The passoids who do pass.
Oh, the passoids.
Yes. Obviously, all my LGBT terminology comes from the LGBT board on 4chan.
Right.
But yeah, like you do. You're if you know for a fact that you're trans at 13.
Yeah,
it's going to be worse for you if you transition at 18.
Not necessarily. There's procedures where if you have puberty blockers too early, you don't have enough skin on your penis to create or skin. There's a situation where if you transition too early, you lack then the muscle or fat to do the transition later on. So there's
interesting.
Hold on, that's. Except we won't go into it too much.
I don't know enough about
point of optically.
Like,
that's fine. Yeah. So we won't debate bro it.
I think that there's
but
people know way more about
it. So there's too much.
Go into a more nuanced debate from like a medical perspective of it.
I can say with absolute certainty there is not a study.
Yeah, but you say things with absolute certainty, and that doesn't make them true.
True, that's fine.
You say a lot of things with absolute certainty.
I have low. It's like when Candace Owens says, "I'm staking my entire reputation that Bridget McCrone is a man." It's like not saying much necessarily. But there are no studies that have ever been done or currently exist that show the long-term efficacy of transition for children. They do exist for adults, and I support the right of adults to transition. And I think the right, when they say this shouldn't even be allowed to happen for adults, that's too fucked up.
So one thing I
convinced
think
by
actually
Bridget
like we would generally
Macron
probably
being a
agree
man.
on is
Dude, I haven't looked into it much, but
I was
it's
pretty
weird.
convinced. Anyway, sorry, keep it.
as far as I know, use your words. What is it, boy?
Use your vibes.
Thank you.
So as far as I know, there have been like very, very few like good studies on like long-term like transition
None.
stuff. There have been, I think, 2 that are like both like in opposite ways, very like ideologically biased, which is fine. Like that is just how studies
Yeah,
work.
they
It's
always
just
say
that you
the
need a
Dutch
ton
study.
of them
Yeah.
to
Okay,
balance that
but here's
out.
what we're getting in the weeds.
Yeah.
The broader point is the left is too woke. Okay, whether that's like gender issues or race, right? White men need to sit down and shut up. Gen Z,
Sure. I
these
think
Gen
that stuff
Z
can
white
be like
fucking ridiculous,
stupid. Yeah.
right? Or what is it? Gender,
But, sorry,
race.
do you take this critique less seriously because it is not coming from a leftist? Like, this is not a leftist.
Yes, I absolutely do. Yeah.
Right.
But
what do you mean?
Well, we'll see by the end of the pod if you're a
yeah.
leftist.
No, I mean, like, one of my big like theories about this, and like I always think back to like my first roommate in university, the richest 20-year-old you can imagine, and she would like do all the like incredibly like painfully woke, and I was like very, very woke at that time too, and she did all the like university extracurriculars. She was like running a newspaper, she's in the student union and stuff, and also her financial situation was that her parents paid all of her tuition, all of her rent, and then my rent just went to her as her like walking around money.
Nice.
Classic
Yeah,
woke.
yeah.
Jesus
It was like fuck too. Like we'd get into fights and stuff. Like she'd like steal my food, and then she'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, just take $50 off your rent." And I was like super broke at the time, so I couldn't like turn that down. But I'd be like, "I wish we could talk about you stealing my food." Yeah, like, and like I feel like this is the type.
Stop stealing my food.
Yeah,
It's
this is the type of
that's
person that like.
classic example of how the rich white woke people are like. Can you please stop that, please?
Rich
That's a
woke
good
people
example.
will eat your breakfast.
Yeah.
They'll eat your lunch too.
But this is like the exact type of person that like gravitates towards these types of organizations, is someone who can afford not to have a job during like school or whatever, and therefore can do all of these things.
Right.
And it's also
They're not
like
affected by
they
the
also look,
class things.
all these things look great on a resume, right?
Sure.
And so it's like a very careerist thing. And obviously the priority that like the issues that they prioritize are the ones that relate to them, which are like identity-based ones rather than class ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my question, because it seems all the left, not all the leftists, a lot of leftist like content creators would agree, except FT Signifier, would agree with this, that like the left is too. There's a serious woke problem on the left. That's like a common discussion point amongst, I would say, informed leftists. Anyone who watches Doom Scroll.
Sure.
So here's the question: if everyone acknowledges it's a problem, why is it not changing? Why is there not, like, you acknowledge it? There's like ContraPoints would acknowledge it.
So
Why is that? Why are you this small cohort of terminally online leftists keep controlling the discourse and trapping people? Well, I don't want to criticize, the people who are like, white men need to sit down and shut up all the time. It's like when you're trying to get a voting bloc together to pass like things that would be beneficial for people of lower class, which would disproportionately benefit black people to begin with. But it's like, no, we have to talk about the race. It's like, it's just.
you're a sociology guy, right?
I'm an
Have you ever
applied
looked into,
sociologist.
much of
Yes.
the sociology of social movements?
Yes, but you tell me.
So like there's like a whole history of us. I'm sure I'm telling you stuff, but for the audience, there's
Assume that I know everything you're going to say.
Yeah. So like in the early social movement theory was sort of like based out of like functionalism, and so is this idea of like this is a way for society to like let off steam. Like when there's like people are like upset, they like sort of like do a temper tantrum essentially. And then there's like the more class-based one, which is that this is like social movements are a matter of like class politics. And then that was sort of thrown out the window with like the anti-war and environmental movement, because
It's a tool to divide those movements.
Well, those ones don't actually like didn't fall neatly into class lines. They didn't fall neatly into, and like what there now is what's called new social movement theory. And one of the points that they make is how disorganized all political movements are now. And so you get this like amorphous blob that's just sort of like, it's not based on class lines, it's based on like identity as like a consumer or commodity lines, right?
Sure.
And a lot so the difference between a present day social movement and say a union is that a union actually has a structure, it's organized, and it can negotiate in real ways, whereas a disorganized social movement
diffuse.
Everything it can do is only go veto against, because there's no bargaining power. A union can say can negotiate. They can maybe
it can affect it can affect public opinion. It can move the needle,
opinion, but it can also there's room to negotiate. Say it doesn't get every demand met, but they can come to the table and say the strike will end if you whatever. Whereas now there's no leverage. It's just try to move social opinion or just show up to protest or whatever. And I would say that a big part of it is the fact that the left is not a organized social movement. It's just a bunch of atomized people on social media, often just teenagers who are posting with their anime profiles. And so I would say that the while everyone can agree or to varying degrees that there's this problem of wokeness or whatever, it isn't something that there's no head of leftism that can wrangle everyone.
Yeah, but why is there not a more concerted effort from intelligent leftist, let's say, influencers or media figures? No, obviously there's some, but why is it not? Why is that? Why is this thing that everyone seems to agree is a problem not been more extinguished? Which I'm not saying is a problem that's unique to the left. You could say the same thing about the right.
Yeah,
and I would.
Yeah.
If you were a rightist, I'd come as an enlightened centrist and give you all kinds of wonderful advice.
Yeah.
But I genuinely am trying to understand that.
I mean, I don't know. I definitely don't think that anyone is good at dealing with this, right? And I think that it's a combination of a bunch of different incentives. I think that there's partially, it's you probably don't want to shit all over a big, what could be a big part of your audience. I think a big part of, there's audience capture. I think that there's also a lot of people, I think myself included, generally don't try and would rather have bigger fish to fry in terms of talking about
problems on the right?
Yeah, problems on the right, or broader issues.
Yeah,
and
I think
rather I personally whenever I see these kinds of brain dead takes, I always just tell myself, this is a teenager. Don't fucking ignore it. Even if they aren't, I have to tell myself that they're a teenager.
Yes, but those teenagers are weighing down, are preventing real material change from happening, and I think it just needs to be.
I don't think that is that much of a cause for that, though.
You don't think that the average, let's say, American,
I don't think
that's the only country that matters.
But I'm not saying that
they're actively Vivek Chibber, I believe, was a professor on Doomscroll, and he pointed out the whole, it went from material class analysis of getting to the root of issues, which is capital, something I'm sympathetic to and agree with probably, to we're going to, instead of fighting power there, we're going to fight power wherever it manifests, in interpersonal relationships where oh, my boss is hetero cis and I'm, gay or something or black or whatever. And therefore that's the power we need to fight. It's should that be addressed? Sure. Should the bulk of the theory be around that? It's no. And to the degree that it focuses on that, it's getting away from material. And why then do you not call yourself an enlightened radical centrist? Because that's what enlightened radical centrists would believe.
I don't think
the best of the left, the left material analysis, stripped of its woke bullshit.
No, I think that you're just a leftist is the thing here.
Okay, P.F. Young's a leftist.
I think you're right.
We got it.
That's not.
Look at that.
But so P.F.
Finally, someone said it.
Wait. Okay, so P.F. Young is a leftist, despite I think we can agree being culturally conservative. Yeah, culturally center right.
Compared to the terminally online leftist community, yes, I am right wing.
But you're interpersonally sort of culturally right wing, like socially conservative. But
is your babe. Compared to a Christian who goes to church, no, I'm pretty left wing.
Yeah.
Pro gay marriage, pro trans adults. I'm generally pro choice.
Where's the vape?
I thought I gave it to you.
Did you? That's over. The conversation's derailed until we find the vape. Wait, hold on.
Pause the podcast.
Pause it.
Oh my god, it definitely did not leave the vicinity. I gave it to you.
Did you?
It's
in my
I
pocket.
get it from you.
Oh, it's in my pocket.
Okay. All right. Speaking of which, can I get that?
Talk about material problems here.
Okay, but
This is a material
we
problem.
have to draw a line somewhere, eh? Got to draw a line somewhere because
What are you talking about?
like would you like MAGA communists who are reactionary when it comes to culture and they're even further right.
Sure,
Yeah, hold on,
sure,
real quick.
yeah,
Can we
yeah.
get back to you because you were saying I'm culturally right.
Well, but I don't mean like
Compared
culturally.
to who? Is the question.
No, it's not. I'm not like accusing you of being culturally right. I think like
Which would be a great thing, by the way. It's not an accusation, to compliment. If I
a lot of people are interpersonally more conservative, and then they think they have to be like universalist about their like personal beliefs.
This
But
is
you-
Rogan.
But you don't have to, right? Like you can be personally socially conservative or more socially conservative than you are outwardly
Rogan
conservative.
is temperamentally reactionary, internally socially conservative, and then politically just like a liberal.
apolitical. Yeah, but again, like when I compare myself to my friends and family who are conservative, just again, I'm kind of like, again, it's compared to who? If people want to call me right wing, that's because most of the people I interact with and most of the people in this space are left wing. But also, like, you talk to leftists of like, yeah, hey, actually, I think monogamy might be a good. Like, I think that like the normalization of polyamory might not be like great for society. Like stuff like that. So does that make me socially conservative? Sure, in that sense. If socially conservative means correct, which is like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm glad to see Sam embracing enlightened centrism so wholeheartedly.
I mean, welcome to the
A true-
revolution,
here's the thing. Good-
Comrade Young.
Yeah,
A
he's
true
centrist,
enlightened
he's a
centrist would never
leftist
call
now.
themselves an
They
enlightened
swap.
centrist, so that's good.
Where does the woke left exist? Because I fear that we create them now. Because I agree with both of you.
Yeah.
But there's also like every left wing creator I follow is into like the post woke like class
Agreed. Yeah,
consciousness.
right.
Where is this like woke leftist who can't agree on the class shit, who just keeps going into the identity shit?
I mean, so one thing I would say is
Like
I don't think that
Hollywood?
there's like I'm
A
sure
lot
you
of
can
that.
find someone, but like I don't think that it's a significant number of people who are like class doesn't matter. It's
hell
all
yeah.
about like identity stuff. Like that is
Henry
like,
with the water.
It's just that they also focus like a lot more on identity stuff than is necessarily needed.
As-
And like to be
as a rich
fair, it's
person
not
would.
necessarily wrong to
Thank you,
like talk
Henry.
about some of that like identity stuff too. It's just like I do think that it comes down to how much of it is your what is your focus. And like I don't think it's a matter of like someone like I don't think that it's like it's people who are like saying that there's no value to class politics. I think it's a matter of people who just emphasize different things
Okay.
at varying degrees.
FD signifier, for example.
Mm.
This is what I argued with him about. Like, anti-white racism is real. Is it a major problem? I think it's a problem because it's the thing that is empowering the far right.
Mm.
And a lot of people will be like, well, here's a white guy complaining about anti-white racism. It's like, doesn't affect me. I have real white privilege, which is class privilege. So of course my life isn't affected by it. Now there are like things to be said about, that's kind of a selfish thing to say because like there are poor white people who are less likely to get a job if the corporate environment is saying we want to hire people of color or whatever instead of white people, which I've been at companies where that's exactly what they said. I was part of the DEI program design team where that was the discussion. We will offer different compensation packages depending on whether or not they help us meet our diversity goals. Quotas are illegal. That was verbatim what was told to me. So that's bullshit. But it's like the Gen Z people who are going far right, Andrew Tate, weird bullshit stuff, the Nick Fuentes, it's like you're empowering them by denying that when people say, do white men need to sit down, shut the fuck up, they're so annoying, there's too many white people in America, there's too many white people. White people did all the colonization, and now they get mad when we're coming back and colonizing them and like overtake. It's like,
Yeah.
what
And
a
I mean,
weird fucking thing. Like that needs to be called out. Otherwise, you're empowering the right. So if
And
you're
like,
leftist,
I
you
mean,
have
I
an
do
interest in
feel like
calling it out.
this is in a lot of ways a optics issue of like because like I don't know.
Optics is a way to diminish the importance of communicating a message and convince. You could say like, if I'm trying to convince someone of an important position that I genuinely hold, you say, well, it's just optics. It's like that's not.
And I mean, but I think
Optics is
optics are
like-
important.
You say it again.
I do think optics are important.
Yeah,
Obviously.
but fair enough. When I hear people talk about like, well, it's just bad optically, it's like it's not just bad.
Well, like
optically. It's
the-
bad
the-
in that it undermines your ability to get the things that
so
you
like
genuinely think are good done.
there's two like ways of looking at optics. I think like there's one way which would be like being like throwing trans people under the bus or like coming out as like anti-trans or whatever as a way of like appealing to like conservatives more, which I don't think you should do, because I think that is like you're actually compromising your values to do that. But then like any like good organized protest movement or like social movement group I've ever seen has a dedicated communications person whose job it is to talk to media, because they are good on camera, they're good on their feet, and they like there's a difference between those two things, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the broad
and I in general
discourse.
think that like I don't think it's even necessarily totally a matter of like those specific social issues. I think it's a matter of people don't like someone who's like comes off as fucking annoying and weird.
Right.
And like I think that you can bring all those like woke issues in too. It's just don't be fucking weird about it. Be a fucking person.
Once again, we agree deeply. True enlightened centrist. Well, I had Steel Man and QAnon on here, but that was like the first.
Yeah, we covered that. Oh wait, hold on. Don't you think that like
you have notes? I did not.
I had a couple notes. Okay.
The title of the notes he has is One Dime Debate.
Plus leftist. Yeah.
I'm really good friends with the Q guy.
Really?
Like very close friends. He's one of my best friends in the city with a full Q guy.
Yeah. I one guy in college I knew who's like, I don't think Sandy Hook happened. Oh, fuck.
It's interesting. Is he interested?
Yeah.
He's interested
Well, maybe
to
if
talk
people
to.
stop gaslighting him about the Epstein stuff, he wouldn't be so quick to fall into the bullshit about Sandy Hook.
But he loves Trump as well. He refuses to concede
believe the
that
Epstein
Trump
stuff?
was part of the Epstein stuff.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What were you gonna say, Greg?
Don't
Well,
you
he's a
think,
white hat. He's a white hat.
He's a white hat, but he's very.
He's a white hat pedophile.
You know, because
very charismatic.
this is
the only way you can stop a
interesting,
bad guy pedophile is with a good guy pedophile.
This is an interesting difference in our philosophies, I think, because I can see what you're saying is like, oh, the left should, be less radical, but and then the right should be less radical, and then they're coming towards the center. And when I'm thinking about
on certain issues, they should be more radical on other issues.
Okay, because when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking the left being radical is what shifts the goalpost to the point where when like a far right person takes over in America, they have to like drag that back in the same direction. Like, you have to now overturn Roe v. Wade or whatever. Whereas like if the left having to push in that direction makes it harder that when the right takes over, they can't just immediately go to fascism. They have to like drag the Overton window back to the right. So isn't it good? Like, shouldn't you be like radical on the left and push things as far in that direction as you possibly can while you can?
Yeah. Why aren't you a pro woke leftist?
I mean, no, I mean, I think that like you can do that. I think that it's also like it's a matter of like how you win people over. In general, I think that like the things that are much harder to change are the like economic issues, which if you foreground those, that becomes a lot harder to revoke when like far right takes power than like diversity in Netflix shows,
Can I
like that will always like that's it's the meme of like woke capitalism or like capitalist like pride whatever shit, where it's like they will change as soon as the like needle goes from 49% to 51%. And so that's something that you can never count on. That's something that, but like you can bring people over from, like through the economic stuff. This is also like, it reminds me, I've told the story before on the last time I was on this. And I think I've talked to you about this too, but I'm just going to say it. I have a friend who, he's an incredibly dope union organizer, and I remember he went on this like very lefty stream, not gonna shit talk anyone, but a YouTuber from Mars and her friends were on like interviewing this friend of mine, and at one point he sort of talked about how organizing does involve working with people who you don't agree with or don't like, who like there are certain people who are like old and conservative or whatever. And they were like shocked that he was like, no, like the goal is not to make a social club. I have my friends at home who I hang out with on my off time. My goal is to get 51% of the vote. And the thing is too, that like there's like one guy who's like very like old conservative, but his issue was that he was trying to unionize Uber Eats, and his issue is like he doesn't have a pension. He's like old, and so he like was able to get him on board that way. And then while they're like out canvassing, trying to sign up more people, they wound up having a discussion about climate change. This guy doesn't believe in climate change. He's very pro like more oil in Canada and stuff. And my friend was saying how they wound up having the most productive, interesting discussion about climate change they've ever had, because their relationship was based on like solidarity, where they both know that what's good for one of them is good for the other, and so they both trust each other, not like in a way that you can't have from like this isn't a matter of like you have to like accept that there's going to be a ton of like conservatives. Like, this is how you reach people, is by like building these bridges of like class solidarity, which you can then talk to them about all these other issues that they would otherwise have like turned their brain off if like they don't know you on that level first.
Right. And the wokeism gets in the way of that. Like a perfect example right now that would unite the populist right, populist left is like anti-imperialism, anti-US imperialism, right? There's a large number of people on the right who do not support U.S. intervention in the Middle East to the degree that we're doing now.
Yeah.
Same with the left.
Yeah.
Now you say, well, it's for different reasons. It's like, maybe. When Candace Owens says that part of the reason she's so anti-Israel is because she saw so many Palestinian kids dying and she had just had a baby. I actually do believe that. She is a grifter on a lot of things, but I happen to believe that. And so it's like, okay, there's a 70% of people I think you could get on board with a anti-imperialist agenda. But in the purity testing, there's a right-wing version of it for sure. I see it. Andrew Wilson is he's a Christian nationalist guy I talked to who was like, fuck Glenn Greenwald because he's gay, and he did this like, this videos came out of Glenn Greenwald doing something. We shouldn't be in alliance now. Like, that's fucking stupid. That's the same kind of bullshit
The
left is. Well, this guy said he's anti-allowing. He wants to hurt trans children because he's not for puberty blockers being available at Planned Parenthood or some bullshit. It's like, that's the bullshit purity testing that prevents the material important interest from happening.
The thing, I like coming back to is just with like, this is like, especially with the type of like leftist who's like super anti-electoralism, which I am in general, like my stance on this type of stuff is that like, I believe that like we should use every bit of political capital that we have. That means voting, that means other things too. But like, in general, like, it is like the people who are like anti-electoralism will sort of gesture vaguely towards like this idea of like a revolution or like popular like messaging and stuff. And it's like, okay, like if that's your plan, it is an objective fact that there is like a lot of people who do not line up perfectly on every social issue. And it does mean that you are going to have to be like working with someone who you don't agree with on everything. And that does not mean abandon your principles and like just like concede on those points.
The woke would
just
say,
means put those aside to work with this person.
Yeah, but the woke would say that what you're doing is tacitly endorsing transphobia at that point. Then the question becomes, do we even give a fuck about any of those people? My answer is no. Shut the fuck up. You're getting in the way of actually making material change that would benefit trans people.
I mean,
more,
like,
right?
and to be fair, like, I do think like it depends.
And
I think that there's
leftists like
lines.
you, enlightened centrists like you need to be a louder
Don't
voice,
touch me.
louder voice against the woke. All right, I'm trying to get as many leftists.
So I mean, like,
be anti-woke
to be clear,
as possible.
like, I do think that there's like a line too, like where it's like you, it's one thing if it's like someone is like whatever, like it's one thing if like they are like have like opinions you don't like and like are shitty or whatever, and it's a different thing if it's like they are like a danger to people in that movement. It's like that's obviously
that's
a line that you can like, but
that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not believing that children should have access to puberty blockers from Planned Parenthood without being part of a clinical trial, a controlled clinical trial. That is not even in remotely the same camp as, we should throw gays off rooftops and shit, which is like the far right Christian nationalist bullshit.
No, and this
anyway,
and like this like anti-puberty blocker thing is exactly the thing that you would be converted on once you're brought in through class solidarity.
Sure, all right. I trust that the right position on that would win out. I have
exactly. You'll change your mind.
Something else to bring, because I have some substantive. We could just get into. See
sure.
how woke
Wait,
you
hold
really
on.
are.
Let me he voted for Trump, right? He didn't vote for Trump.
I would have if I was in a swing state, but I was in Texas, so I voted for Jill Stein instead.
So ultimately, these material can like, we talk a lot about like, we got to move past culture and we got to focus on class. You guys both agree class is more important than culture, I would assume. Do you?
100%.
Yeah.
Or are they like equally important?
I mean,
Same thing?
I think that like I don't like doing the oppression Olympics thing of that, but I also think that like if you fix class issues, that will have way more of an impact on like social issues than fixing social issues will have on class issues.
Right.
Okay, but ultimately, You're going to canvass for. You said you're going to canvass for like a libertarian candidate.
Thomas Massey.
Thomas
I'm not
Massey.
committing to that, but I'm thinking about it.
So like, what is there any? What political issue, if there was like an on the boots on the ground campaign, would you guys both be a part of to have solidarity for?
Anti-U.S. imperialism.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
And then you would be converted to trans kids. Oh, but
Yeah. No,
about
well,
One
it.
of
trans
us.
him.
One of us would end up
One of you would be
trans. at the
No,
end of it.
you'll get hit with the trans ray.
Yeah.
You're going trans. For
That is
sure.
actually how it works.
Okay,
That's why
Brogan,
these
do you have
people
anything, or should we
transitioning.
move on?
Would you sleep with a trans woman?
Brogan, you
Fellas,
would, right? You'd sleep with a trans
as
woman.
you're gay.
Answer that.
It's so okay. Brogan is more masculine than me, and as a direct result, he would sleep with a trans woman because he's attracted to femininity.
Yeah.
I would not, personally.
Not straight enough.
Depends
No,
on
I guess
trans.
I'm not. I'm not straight enough.
There
to
was a
sleep with
Megan.
trans woman.
I don't know why I always use Megan Fox. She's not like the archetype, but if it's a Megan Fox, it was exactly looked like Megan Fox, but they had a penis. I could work with it.
Penis is a non-issue for me. The only issue is the voice. But the penis is like, I don't even think about that.
This is really going to turn the audience on their heads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Anyway, I have a substantive question.
Okay.
What do you think about the discourse around patriarchy? I could be more pointed.
Yeah. Be more
I
specific.
think that patriarchy is a bad way to talk about. Is a bad way to talk about just systemic structures that are oppressive. Let's say, because it basically it implies that patriarchy, meaning man, obviously, that men as such are benefiting from patriarchy rather than the truth, which is a very, very small number of rich men and all of their wives and trans, hookers and all that stuff. They're benefiting.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of men, especially like the Gen Zers who are going right because they don't have a house, they can't get a job, they're like, why the fuck are you blaming me? Why are you lumping me in your description of the problem as part of the problem?
So, yeah, totally. So, I think that in general, the way it gets talked about, I think, is quite bad. I think like a really good example is like the term like toxic masculinity, which I do think does describe a real thing, but I think is like
hate speech describes a real thing.
It's like a massively, it's a terrible communication fail, I think, or it's like a branding fail in that it has been like used to like sound like fucking horrible or whatever. I don't know. I try and whenever I do stuff in my videos, I try to avoid like, here's this buzzword and just instead like explain the thing, which so many fewer people have an issue with, and people don't like turn off their brains with that.
Yeah.
But so like I feel like there's like branding and communication failures with stuff like that. I would say though that I disagree in terms of like the patriarchy only benefits like the rich people. Like it does most benefit those people for sure, but I'd also think that I think that there are ways that it's like it benefits men which are bad and unjust, and that like it's not productive in any way to blame any like specific person, but like
or entire gender,
entire gender,
right?
Or,
so
like,
that's my point. Don't stop using patriarchy.
I think it can be used to describe like a real thing. I think it like in certain contexts can be useful.
But then you could just say like there's good parts of patriarchy, like cops. The fact that most cops or firefighters or fucking bricklayers as a joint, it's like that's a positive aspect of it. Is patriarchy bad? Because it's always described as just bad.
I mean, like when I'm saying like the bad thing, like I would say it's like the way that like that I'm trying to get like nail down what I'm trying to say.
I should
or,
debate
like,
bro you right now. Most people that kill themselves are men. Most people that fall out of school are men. Most people that fucking are victims of violent crime are men.
He
Most
did
people are
this to
abused.
my girlfriend last night.
The vast majority of abusers are men too, and like vast
True, yeah,
majority
correct,
of people
right.
who like
Most
hit
people
their
get
partners are
abused.
Yeah.
Don't forget about lesbians.
Well, yeah, the vast majority of people
Watch
who
out,
get
you're-
abused are men. But that's because you're also have to factor in like gay male relationships, so that also like adds to that.
You know what? That's a good point. That's the real fucking problems. Patriarchy is all these fucking gay men. That's the problem.
No, like, I mean, like, there are like ways that like
Now I'm a real leftist. It's gay men are the problem here. I hate patriarchy too, but only the gay patriarchy.
Like
side
you
of
can
it.
look at just like things like women generally are like expected to do like way more of the housework and stuff. Things like that, like all the sort of like legal and just like historical aspects of like marriage that like benefit men like way more than women in a lot of ways. Like I think that like there are real things to talk about. I don't know if that's like something that you should like blame a gender for.
Of course, patriarchal institutions existed for most of history, and we needed like a feminist movement that was explicitly against that, and that's fair. That in 2025, in the current battlefield that we're in, bad term, should not use it. Leftists should avoid using it. Call it out.
Should they talk around it? What are they trying to do? Like when they're trying to gesture at patriarchy.
I think they're trying. I think they are misdiagnosing the fundamental problem. People who
which
are
is class.
Right. It's like, well, but patriarchy, but like, for example, in a corporate workplace, there's the meme example of like the temperature is adjusted to like the male body or something like that or whatever.
Sure.
It's like I mean, that's a non-fucking problem compared to the real problems.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Now you can say that that's just a right-wing.
So I mean, but I feel like this is also like what I always find like frustrating, like when people like talk about like wokeness or whatever, is that it's like a combination of just like a bunch of like loosely defined like things that like combining a bunch of different things.
But
so I guess
in terms of like tests in science, like I think even now we throw away the lab results when we're doing tests on rats for the female rats, because their hormone cycles gets in the way of the data. So we only have data on like male rats.
Oh yeah, no, like
that's a problem.
Oh no, like 100%.
For sure.
Sorry, what I'm just trying to say is that I think that are you like saying like I said, I am a big believer in don't use like buzzwords that will make people turn their brains off. It's much better to just like explain the thing itself. Are you talking about like just like don't use the word patriarchy?
Yeah, because like,
it sounds like you're saying something
more.
more.
Saying
not only do you
issues-
disagree with the term, but you also disagree with the underlying.
Yeah.
pay gap
So that's
between
like a different,
yeah pay gap amongst like CEOs, like females make less than their male CEOs. Non-issue, not a real issue. Actors in Hollywood, and yet it fucking got or like pay gap for sports. Like that's just anyone who tries to make that argument as like this is an example of discrimination it's not just bad optics. It's a wrong argument, and it undermines your ability to get the more important issues done. That's my point.
Right.
The reason that female soccer players make less than male soccer players is because they bring in less money.
So your issue is not with the term patriarchy. Your issue is with the concept of patriarchy.
Yeah. Not historically, in that there is an old boys club and there's real problems with it. And of course, like misogyny from men, and it's on the right, is in like from Andrew Tate. That's a real issue. I wouldn't call that patriarchy, because that's such degenerate bullshit that most most normal men look at what Andrew Tate's doing like, this is clearly a fucking 13-year-old's like idea of a. That's not patriarchy. That's just
sure
artardation, basically.
Okay.
And like that's you'll get more people on board than the Gen Z Zoomers who are like, yeah, you say patriarchy, I just turn my brain off or whatever.
Right.
And the evidence, I would say, I can't draw a direct line, but I think it's reasonable to assume that the reason there's a rightward shift in a bad direction, is because of it's been so poorly talked about, and the problem's been misdiagnosed.
I do think that it is generally very poorly talked about.
I'm just winning this debate so hard right now. Just kidding.
I think a feminist would listen to you say these kinds of things, and they would be like noting all these examples of women getting fucked over in positions of power in media and being underrepresented, and then view you as being like just hand waving all of that away and just say, look at class.
And that's exactly what the men's rights activists would say about me. Of like, well, hold on, you need to acknowledge gynocentrism. You need to acknowledge the divorce court fails men. Most of the victims of violent crime, all the same stuff. It's like, yes, it's all true. It does not help to phrase things in terms of we're a gynocentric society. Even though it's like, yes, women are more sought after in the workplace at this point if it helps DEI goals, which is like the dominant ethos in corporate America. It's like, okay, doesn't help to then say it's women are the problem. It's the inherent. It's like it's just a misdiagnosis.
So you're against gynocentrism. You're against patriarchy, and like and
enlightened, not political, non-binariness.
Right,
That's what I am.
But and then
the non-binary is truly the enlightened centrist at the end of the day here.
And then you apply this to Israel Palestine. You're like, maybe the Palestinians
one
need to chill
step
out a little
closer
bit.
to coming out as trans.
Palestinians need to relax a little bit.
Nobody hates Hamas more than I do.
50-50.
Yep. Nobody hates Hamas more than I do.
Even though one side is getting genocided and the other side is doing the genocide. You're like 50-50 on that.
No, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that describes my position on that.
No, we know where he stands on that one.
I have the correct take on that one.
Molest you, Paul.
All right, well.
Do you ever think society is just like rotten to its core?
I think
do you ever walk
there's a
around
great deal of degeneracy. Yeah.
downtown wherever and see like women on SSRIs in their late 30s and men depressed and autistic and like spend all their time gaming and sleeping at the office, and they're gonna all kill themselves in their 50s, and you think we fucked up so bad.
Yep.
Like with this is actually like
The social fabric is rotten.
the social fabric is truly rotten and like irreparably rotten.
I don't know. I
It's
think
leave
I
or
think
die.
that you should
I think
check
that's
out
true.
those SSRIs.
I think that's
I think that might actually.
Yeah, if you were SSRIs, you probably wouldn't be thinking that.
Yeah.
take your drugs, Rogan. I will say that, like for example, the evidence of church membership starting to go up is a reaction to that. Is it the healthy one?
Yeah.
Maybe. I've been to churches where it's very culty, and it's just like Jesus fucking Christ. Again,
Yeah, they
not
are like
right
that.
wing compared to
They
a
are
lot of
like
people.
Jesus fucking Christ.
They are like that, yes. but like, at least that's evidence that people see a problem and are doing something about it. You know, like, it's an archetypal imbalance. You know, like when the degeneracy just kind of overtakes society and all that. Like, there's an inherent need to.
But it's not even degeneracy. It's just like
I'm using degeneracy very broad.
stasis.
Moral
Yeah.
degeneracy in general. Like, instead of, you know, seeking to have families or trying to have families, it's I'm just gonna play video games or whatever and do it like that. That's
I'm gonna make
degenerate.
money.
You can call it degenerate, yeah.
I'm gonna earn
That's
money.
degenerate. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah. Who you were talking about what was the quote about like if it was you said it like you have to have religion, or like religion's important in the sense that it's like an ideal you can't reach, but like if you don't have that, you'll find it in something else and you'll never be satisfied.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's like the David Foster Wallace thing. I mean, yeah, like I do think that like there is like society is insanely atomized, and like so much shit is fucked that like it makes sense that people are like reaching towards religion, which I don't think is a very good solution. But it's like you do have like something in your life that like is a reason to be around people and like a community or whatever. Yeah.
Do you think like moderate Christianity is a net positive for society?
I don't know. I don't know if I've like seen a good example of a society that has moderate Christianity. I feel like
When is the last time you've been to any church ever?
never, because I'm a Jew.
Okay,
a
well,
lot,
I would say,
Explains a lot, right?
you know, this is one of the real problems.
I'm
Is there
the
anti-Semitism
war on
problem?
Christmas' bravest soldier. Okay, I'm fully
Yeah, that's bad.
anti-Christmas.
That's bad.
No,
That's bad.
I won't rest until we're saying Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, you hate to hear it.
I
Happy
thought
Hanukkah or
isn't
Happy
that the
Holidays.
opposite of
Happy
what-
Holidays is also acceptable.
I thought
Well, it advances your atheist Jew cause.
it's the opposite of what Jews want, which is they don't want to evangelize, so they don't want people saying Happy Hanukkah.
I mean, I don't think that like I'm not saying that everyone can just join. I'm just saying that like that should just be the
You want to talk about Judaism? my thesis of one of the fundamental flaws of Judaism is that it is not an evangelizing religion. It is too in-group focused, and that works to its own detriment, and then therefore the detriment of other societies. Am I wrong?
I
would say,
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I don't think that's true.
I'd say like Hinduism, one of the detriments of Hinduism is the caste system, the belief that some people are inherently, higher social status than others. And I think in Christianity, the religious fundamentalist denialism is a big problem. The fucking anti-gay bullshit is a problem.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like, I'm also not the person to talk to about Judaism, but yeah, no, I also don't think that that's
Are you a
big
religious
issue.
Jew?
No.
Interesting. That's another problem. We use the same word to describe an ideology and a race.
It's a race, it's a nation, it's an ideology, and it's like a culture. That's like a lot
No
of
good.
things.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult to have a nuanced conversation about without immediately devolving into anti-Semitism.
Yeah, no.
I just want us to pour out of me the anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I'm just stuffing it down constantly.
Always holding
That's
his tongue.
honestly not a problem I ever really have. That's
No,
interesting that you do, though. That's cool.
Well, I mean, I think that like I have internalized the thing that Jordan Peterson says of like that shit that happened in Nazi Germany that could happen here. That's a real possibility. And I have seen anti-Semitism up close in like a brain rotting, disgusting way.
Yeah. I
And
do
I-
every time
I
I open
view it-
Twitter.
Yeah.
No, you don't even know. No, I'm talking in my own life. People I know who've had their
No,
brains
Jew,
rotted.
you don't even know.
Well, I'm serious. I'm like people who are like like mentally deranged beyond belief
I
that are like
suspect
close
Sam
to
has
it.
No,
actually
I
seen
do
this.
know. Yes.
Firsthand, like people like that you like close with,
Not that I've been
friends
close
and
with.
family.
No.
It's very scary and very different when it's friends and family, and I genuinely worry about it. And I believe that the abuse of saying if you're very critical of Israel, it's anti-Semitic, all that shit. It's like all that does is further that shit in people's minds. The reason Nick Fuentes has more influence than he should is because for a while his pinned tweet was, I was right. All these criticisms of Israel that I was making 5 years ago, people now realize, like, fuck, why did we let Nick Fuentes be the loudest voice on criticism of Israel? That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
Rob the radicals of their valid talking
that's
points.
not a matter of
so
woke.
all their
That's
left.
not a woke thing. That is a
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, this is separate.
that is an Israel lobby thing.
Sure,
Like,
it's a separate issue. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's my broader point.
So recently,
like Israel
Yeah,
does
what do
not
you
give
got?
a fuck about anti-Semitism, and I would argue
It's
I think
beneficial.
that they it benefits them for Jews to be not safe anywhere else than Israel.
if
for
I
them to have
were,
that argument.
if I were
that's pretty
Netanyahu,
anti-Semitic,
right?
so-
If I were Netanyahu,
Yeah.
I would.
Why did Israel sell arms to Argentina during the Dirty War when they were killing Jews?
Makes you wonder.
Yeah. Why did they?
Well,
bomb
because
synagogues
like
in
if
Iraq?
I were Netanyahu, I would like Hamas because it allows me to wage my war.
You'd almost like allow funding to go to Hamas.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
encourage
And I
it,
would
and
also-
say they're an asset.
And and also if anti-Semitic
The PA and the West Bank too.
right, if genuine anti-Semitic attacks were happening across the world, which makes Jews feel unsafe and they have to go to back to their homeland, that would also be good, right?
Yeah.
So I think that all kind of works in a Zionist way.
Yeah.
If all the Jews go back to Israel, does something happen?
There's something, yeah. Well, actually, yes.
Like the last Jew gets to Israel.
that's
and then-
Revelations.
and
Like,
then-
That was why the
that's when
Christian
Revelations
Yeah,
Zionists
that's what I
happened.
figured. I figured something's going to happen.
No,
Okay.
like, rebuilding the temple triggers.
My
the
solution,
rapture.
would be bring all the Jews to God's true chosen country, America, and then stop fucking dealing with Israel because they're not really helping.
where would we put them?
New York.
New York?
Boca,
It's the real Jewish state.
Montreal.
But anyway.
Oh, okay.
Any other
One last
topics,
question
guys?
on this topic. So, a man murders 2 Israeli diplomats, right?
Yeah.
And then, like a couple days later, a guy throws a Molotov cocktail into a pro-Israel rally. Are these examples of anti-Semitism?
So I would say that there is for sure like a anti-Semitism in the like anti-Israel movement.
Mhm.
Like there absolutely is. And and from like lefties who've moved there like since like the current genocide has been going on. And yeah, that does I really don't like that. Is it like equivalent? No, but it is also like for sure an issue that I've like definitely been like seeing and watching a lot, and I really don't like. I don't know if I would say those specific instances are like anti-Semitism, but because like I said, it's not anti-Semitic to oppose Israel, and those are obviously like insanely
I don't think it's
radical, but
anti-Semitic just because you like murder Jews.
Yeah.
Or you like throw a Molotov cocktail into a bunch of Jews and kill them.
Yeah.
Like next they're gonna be they're saying that's anti-Semitic now. Like what's next?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like there are like 100% has been this like I had so much optimism for the like pro-Palestine movement at the start of the genocide, in that like there was just so much discipline that was being shown, especially with like the like student encampments.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were all like, they weren't falling for any of the like bullshit tricks of like people going and being like, let me just interview you. Like they were all like, we have our comms person over there. You
Right.
can talk, like
Yep.
all like
Good.
doing that, all like avoiding the like traps of like identity politics and stuff, and like not and I feel like it has very much devolved as it's been going on.
Makes sense.
And yeah, like I mean, I would even go as far as like there's now when I see someone like online saying like, oh, this person's a Zionist, I like fully am just like, what does that mean? Because I don't trust any like just random person like making that accusation now, because it is like so often can just be like this person who is like not particularly informed said something that was like vaguely both sidesy, or like said that they like want a 2-state solution in like 5-10 years ago,
or that they're a Jew.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
I do think a lot of people. I agree with Norman Finkelstein on everything. He said meta, ironically. But certainly he made the point about you shouldn't say, if you're anti what Israel's doing, you shouldn't really talk about it in frames of Zionism or not. You should talk about it in terms of Jewish supremacy, which is the underlying problem, which I fully agree with. And that would be more accurate and not a cover for like,
Adam
fuck the
Panada would
Zios.
agree with you. He thinks that's the, Jewish exceptionalism, Jewish supremacy.
Yeah, well, I mean,
When they got
there's many Jews who would say the same thing.
they got those high IQs, man. I would be too.
I'd be a Jewish
If I was
supremacist,
Jewish,
yeah.
I'd be a fucking Jewish supremacist.
Your boy Steven Pinker has famously pointed out how Ashkenazi Jews have where our IQ is one standard deviation
Yes,
above the
correct.
mean.
Which explains why they have a disproportionate amount of influence and power.
Don't ask which ones are one standard deviation below the mean.
No, don't get him started on that. Also, he does. Don't bring up the Epstein stuff to him on Twitter. He does automatically block anyone who mentions Epstein in his mentions.
This is where high
That's
IQ gets you, Epstein Island.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Because
fair.
those are the people who debate age of consent. It's the logic people who are like 130 IQ. They're like, well, if you think about it,
I think high IQ makes you dumb.
high IQ does
I
make
agree.
you dumb.
Oh my god, it's almost like anti-intellectualism is based.
Albert Camus
Um,
never signed that petition. He never
base Camus.
Base Camus. He died in a car accident like a man. Michel Foucault rotted away in his tall, lanky skeleton body.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I think we've made an incredible amount of progress. I think you demonstrate very enlightened centrist qualities, which is good and important. Now, don't go around telling people that.
Oh, I would
okay?
never.
Thank you. A true enlightened centrist would
that's
hide the fact
disgusting.
that he's
I would
enlightened
never.
centrist.
And you've
Agreed.
realized you're a leftist.
Well, I've always been a leftist.
You've always been a
Yeah.
leftist.
Wait, which kind are you?
The good one.
Yeah, but no, there's like a million different
no.
variants.
You have to say.
You got to pick like a specific subset of leftism. Are you a third world Maoist? Are you a social democrat?
Radical centrist leftist.
Radical centrist leftist. Okay.
Yeah. Class conscious leftist.
Class
Okay.
conscious.
Anarchist,
Class-
Maoist, Leninist.
You might actually be more of a class conscious centrist.
Don't let him out with like the easy like class conscious. Like
That's
you
too
have
easy.
to pick a tendency.
Yeah,
Let's
you
go.
need a tendency.
No.
I think the left is
Are you a campist?
being
That's
glued
a
back
fun one.
together
Yeah.
right now. I think the right's fracturing. The right is fracturing the same way the
Totally.
left did.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in university.
Oh, yeah,
like a decade
MAGA
ago.
Civil
this
War.
is something that I would love to bring up.
Elon
So
versus Trump.
what are your thoughts on the like anti-woke shit? Because my theory is that I think that these are exactly like mirror images of them of each
Like
other.
who?
And,
Like who?
I think that like my favorite example is like when people like on the right like to like brag about being canceled or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
generally this is like it's something like their audience disagreed with them or something, and they got some type of pushback for something they said,
Yeah.
and then we'll go on a big like thing about how like
Become
the woke
grifters?
left is trying to stealing
those people
valor.
are pathetic.
But like so think about like the process is going on here. You have the overstatement of harm, conflating criticism with like violence. You have the weaponization of victimhood status to get online clout. Yeah. Does this remind you of anyone?
The woke right?
The woke right.
Yeah. What are your
Allegedly.
thoughts on this?
The woke right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the woke right is very real. Douglas Murray is the ultimate example of the woke right.
Who's that?
It's the faction of the right that is pro-Israel and says if you criticize Israel, you're anti-Semitic.
You
Right.
have different definitions of the woke right here.
I know.
So like,
Yeah.
what he's talking about, address that.
What I'm talking about is like sort of like using the exact same playbook as
Like who's an
the-
example? Like give me an example.
I
Andrew
don't know.
Tate?
I don't know if I could
fucking
give like a
degenerate.
specific example. I don't know this space as much as you do anymore. I
don't
used
even-
to I used to be a debunking
Are you
guy.
asking,
I'm
are
not
there
anymore.
grifters and degenerates on the right who will use whatever means necessary
What I guess I'm getting at is
Yes.
that I think that this is a toolkit that gets used by everyone, and that I think is like increasingly as the like vibe shift, whatever is like happening. I think that you are increasingly seeing this sort of like weird, like inability to take any like sort of like this like weird sort of like ideological dogmatically I don't know how to describe it. I feel like because I mean I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the Twitter grifters, like Chaya Raichik, like lives a TikTok,
Yeah.
great example.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Poso,
She
great
sucks.
example. Ian Miles
Yep.
Chong,
Oh,
like
yeah.
all this. That's their
Those guys
fucking
are
MO.
as bad as anyone on the left, for sure.
Sure, I'm not.
Worse.
I guess
'cause they're
I'm not-
fucking
I'm not
bigger
trying
than they're bigger than the left ever was. That's the craziest part.
Yeah.
Is that the left, like there was never during like the peak woke, right? There was never like these giant, except I guess you could like count
I
Hollywood.
mean, this is the thing. Like, is that, like the left does not have grifters because there's not money on the left.
there's
Like,
no money on the left,
no-
and there's not power on the left.
No,
Like there's,
exactly.
there's social capital, but like
there's LARPers on the left.
There's
There's no grifters on the left. I don't think.
there's so many huge woke right like millions and millions and millions of followers and views that never existed on the left. And when I argue with my fucking like anybody online about like how the left never had power, how the right's always had power, the right has more power than they ever have.
Yeah.
And more cultural capital right now than the left ever have. They're like,
100%.
oh no, the left controls the narrative. The left never fucking controlled
Yeah,
the narrative.
yeah.
The
No,
right
so-
always has.
Okay, so sorry, I
about
figured out
never?
this is getting off from like what I wanted to get at
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So I think a better way of getting into this is like when you've talked about wokeness a lot. What do you mean when you say wokeness? Because I always find that like when conservatives define wokeness,
Yeah,
it's
what's
a very bad
Bethany
definition.
Mandel?
Gotcha.
The Bethany Mandel. Woke is.
Woke is
This is one of those clips that's gonna go viral. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I would describe woke as, I would say, when I talk about wokeism and the problem with wokeism, it's a cluster of issues. The main one at the top is using identity politics as a form of censorship or as a form of trying to silence discussion on important issues.
so it's
The same
authoritarian cultural leftism.
Yeah,
I would
that's
argue
fair.
it's not leftist, and I think this is what I was sort of
The
getting
woke
at.
right.
I
Yes,
don't think that
Douglas
there is-
Murray, when he
like,
says,
I think that the right does like and is increasingly now getting way more into identitarianism, into like identity politics.
What Trump is
into,
doing to
dogmatism,
universities.
into these sort of like
that's woke right. What Trump is doing to deport students because we're making Jewish students feel unsafe. Definition of woke right. Using identity politics to censor discussion on an issue. Which was like, oh, you can't talk about this because you're racist. You can't talk about this because you're whatever. That's the main issue with wokeism.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. I've never found a very satisfying argument or like definition because I feel like anyone who like is on being very honest can see that there is something there, but it's this sort of like vague
Yeah,
cluster,
it's like
which
far
is
right.
fine.
It's like far
but
right
at the
is
same
like
time, I've never really seen anyone do and people talk about it as if it's a very objective thing, which I think if you can't provide a solid definition while also acting like it's this like clearly evident thing, that's a big epistemological problem.
It's a simple term to refer to a general phenomenon, just like far right. Like, just the far right might support Israel really hard because they hate Palestinians, or the far right might hate Israel because it's like far right has like.
But I
people were
feel
saying
like I
Ben
could
Shapiro's far right.
point to like a cluster,
MAGA
like a definite cluster of like beliefs and tendencies on the far right that I don't know if the same is true for woke. Like I could,
Well, the
like,
one
I
I
could
gave
point
you,
to like
the one I gave you.
Sure, that's like one, and I think that's
the
like
main one. Censorship is the
I mean,
censoring of ideas, soft or hard censorship. I regard as one of the most problematic issues.
I mean,
in preventing good material change to happen.
I have my take on censorship is that it's neutral.
Okay, what do you mean?
I mean, like,
Yes,
so,
we should censor child porn, for example. I agree with that.
no, I mean, I think
And all
that,
the Podesta fucking paintings, those should be.
So I
fucking
think a good example would be like my favorite example I like using is like stand-up comedy. I used to do stand-up comedy. I'm like, say there's like a heckler who's like heckling the entire show. Eventually they get kicked out.
That's not
person is
censorship.
that person is essentially, I would say, being censored. But we also agree
Okay,
that the speech of the person on stage is more valuable than this person.
Yeah, if I go and blow an air horn in someone's face, and we say no air horns in people's face, that's not
obviously
censorship.
there is like the
That's
like
that
conversation
is
you
a
have
form
about
of
like how it's
censorship.
like there's government censorship versus other
Spirit
censorship.
of the law versus letter of the law.
But, like-
the reason I'm anti-censorship is because it prevents the free exchange of ideas around controversial issues.
But like by
so
your same
whatever
logic, you
prevents
could
that,
say that like students saying like having like a safe space on universities isn't censorship.
say it again. I
Like
can
when
say
you
what?
when you say that like what is your definition of censorship? Because it sounds like
What I just said.
The prevention of ideas.
Yes, the prevention of the free discussion of ideas on controversial issues. Well, that's one form of it, but
Sure, but like I mean, there's different contexts where like we would obviously agree that like that's not an appropriate like time or place. To
sure, like
have
what
that.
we were saying earlier about dogma or whatever. Like there's certain issues that shouldn't be discussed. There's certain dogmas to it.
I mean, no, but I mean, I even just like you can discuss it, but like there's like a time and a place where like even like just something that like
Sure,
we would
fine,
be like,
yes.
yeah. So then I would say like, is that censorship?
Is what censorship?
Is like saying that like, oh, you can't have like this like this is like you're at a funeral. Let's not get into like a shouting match about what is wokeism.
No, that's not
Is that censorship?
That's the best time to get into it. This guy's dead because of you.
Like, you see what I'm saying though, right? Like that.
Not really. I think we agree that people should be allowed to discuss controversial issues.
Sure, but I also think that like there's like that's part of ensuring people's ability to have conversations is in limiting other people's ability to speak at that same time. Like
yes, of course.
There is no like such thing as like absolute free speech. It's
Yes.
the discussion is always in like whose voice is valuable in any given moment. And that like therefore
Yeah,
like
this
I would
is
say
not a
censorship
complex
is-
problem.
Yeah.
That's not what I refer to as during
Okay.
censorship. Like if you have the mic and I start going blah 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 blah,
Sure.
blah,
Yeah.
you're like, well, we have to censor. It's like that's not what people are talking about. when we
Sure,
say
but I mean, I do think that I've always hated the argument about like social media censorship is like, well, like you know, like it's not like you're not owed a like 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 a social media
yeah,
thing.
it's more
like,
complicated when it
in
comes to social
present
media.
day, I would say that like like a platform like Facebook or Twitter or like Google being able to like control who is like speaking is a lot more impactful than like being allowed to like distribute like your handmade newspapers in the
Sure,
town
I agree.
square.
Yeah,
And so like I've never found the like sort of like I feel like it's an easy out that I don't find very satisfying. The idea of like, oh well, like you're just like not owed a platform.
who
With-
thinks that? Who
Oh,
thinks that?
I've definitely seen like people will like when during COVID when people like would complain about like Facebook or whatever is like censoring posts
Yeah.
about it, and people would respond like, well, it's a private company, they're allowed to do whatever they
I
want.
think that's
and my
I think
response
that's
is
it.
like, I actually don't think that they should be able to do whatever they
agreed.
want.
Yeah, agreed. This is why I'm not fucking libertarian. Well, private property rights. Blah, blah, blah. It's like no, you there's a point at which your company becomes so large that it becomes effectively a public square.
Yes, and so like I
agree.
think that necessarily means
I've
that there
never-
is like
I've never felt more in the presence of truly enlightened centrism than I feel now.
stop insulting me and address my issue. So I guess I don't know.
Any other points from you guys, or
Huh?
Any other points from you guys, or
I think we should do one more topic and wrap it up.
okay?
How long has this been going? I just showed
2
up.
hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is a long
Okay,
one.
Yeah.
Do you,
What's your
is there what do you have anything that would be a good center versus left, woke left kind of debate point?
I don't know. I keep landing back on that the woke left doesn't exist,
Mm.
and in the degree they do exist, they're like not worth paying attention to. And that's how I've been moving the last 2 years.
See, but I view it like it's like when the right says like white supremacy is not a real thing on the right. It's like no, it is, and I would say Trump's whole strategy. There's a famous moment in a debate with Biden going into the 2020 election where they're like, "Will you condemn the Proud Boys?" Which the Proud Boys is.
Mm.
It's actually
but, like-
run by a Fed. But hold on. But Trump says instead of going white supremacists, those guys are fucking losers, like white pasty guys in their basement. No, all the cool people are MAGA. But like he could have very easily just directly said, "Fuck these guys. They're hanging out in their basements like degenerates." But instead he went, "Stand back and stand by." And I think very clearly that hurt him. And that's an example of when you don't call out your own crazies or your own bullshit, it actually hurts you.
Yeah.
And so,
No, I'll call it like, I mean, I call them out. They exist. I just don't think like, and it's different issues too. Cause like,
I think, well,
the left,
yeah, go ahead.
right? Like the woke left, which my core of cores, I believe is propagated by wealthy university students who have like had nothing else to worry about besides their own identity. Cause that takes like a lot of time to worry about. And if you don't work, that's all you think about, right?
Agreed.
I've met I went to a fine arts school. Half those fucking people, right? Wealthy parents from Toronto moved to Halifax.
That's what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
That's all of them.
Yeah.
So that's not that big of an issue. Like some 20-year-old ranting about fucking intersectionality is not a big issue. They're not worth paying attention to. Versus on the right, when you're talking about like white supremacy and like
those are
Christian
street
nationalism,
gangs.
like much bigger issues, that should be called out. That should be paid attention to, and they have a lot more power. But like the woke left, I just like
The
don't
woke
even
left,
fucking.
yeah.
I don't like the woke left, but I don't like you. They're not worth considering.
This is what people said about Jordan Peterson when he was saying that the woke college students, it's just a bunch of college students, and now they've taken over academia. A lot of them, and I agree, mainstream media is not as much of a problem anymore because that's changed in the last like five years or more. The corporate DEI, that's all fucking woke or whatever you want to describe it. It's like they do have real power.
The corporate stuff, I'll concede that definitely.
Which has a lot of influence.
Yeah, I mean,
what people think. Like I have to think this because my job depends on it.
That's the biggest one. Like Hollywood, I don't necessarily give a lot of power to. Mainstream media is like, who gives a fuck?
But I certainly agree the balance of power has the idea that that whatever you want to call the left or the right, the left, it's like Joe Rogan is mainstream media.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan is very clearly anti-woke.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, well, the media's on the left. No, it's not. All of those fucking right-wing influencers, Christian nationalism is growing, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. It's like,
they're huge.
Yeah, so I agree.
Corporate stuff is a big. I think actually, like, if there is a point to, like, if people want to like direct their power into like changing something that's actually significant in terms of like woke leftism, the corporate stuff, the DEI stuff is like a very big issue, and that's like the structure of society. That's like you wake up every morning and interface with that every day.
Yeah. Now,
and that should be,
my take on that, the like DEI stuff, I guess, is like with like
DEI is a shitty.
I know. I'd say
bad
I
term
don't like
means,
using
that means like disabled veterans. That means a bunch of stuff.
True.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, like when it comes to like I guess like diversity stuff, like I feel like it. The way I've always like thought that like there is like value to like diversity just in and of itself, in certain ways, but it's also I've always thought of it mainly as a measurement of like how equitable like society is as a whole. Like you would expect in a society that is like perfectly equitable that the like representation of like each different group would be roughly equivalent to like what like it would just be a random distribution. Like it would be roughly equivalent to what it is in society. And the fact that it isn't is a indictment on like the society. But
that's your thesis?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's wrong.
But I mean, I think that the issue is that it's not the solving that is not a matter of like just go out of your way to hire that way.
You think the fact that most policemen are males and that most preschool teachers are women, you think that's a problem with society?
I don't know about. I think there's certain examples that are different.
Sure.
I also think
lack of male role models in preschools I would agree is a problem.
I could see that.
And lack of like well, the argument is like you need social workers to help like
I mean, I think that like there's like a lot of jobs that are like
like
overwhelmingly like one gender, and like there's certain ones where it's like is like a physical job that like sure I like you can expect that like that would not be like perfectly equal, but like I think that like in a corporate office setting, sure, like the fact that it not being roughly similar to the like distribution of society is probably speaking to some type of like biases and inequalities.
Fine, the DEI stuff is a band-aid that doesn't solve the underlying issue.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And I think that's a problem with the stuff.
Yeah. Fuck 'em. Class.
Well, everyone, this has been the foremost radically centrist conversation I've ever participated in. And I'm sure I won't pay for it anyway.
Yeah. Here's your mask.
Don't do that.
Right over here, we'll be vaxxing you, and then let's go bash the fash.
Are you vaccinated? mRNA?
Yeah.
You're not?
My mom, pro-social versus anti-social.
Yeah.
My mom fought me on it for 6 months, and it was to a point where like I like my mom more than being unvaccinated.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I got J&J, the one shot adenovirus, not mRNA.
What was that?
Because it was one shot. I also didn't want to do the mRNA.
Okay.
I also believe wholeheartedly that at least 95% of people who take the mRNA will not suffer any issues.
Yeah, I've been fine.
I'm very I'm very not. I don't ever talk about the vax stuff because I don't want it to be. I don't want it to actually be bad. That would be bad for me and everyone I know. I know because they just care more about being right.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, the biggest day of their lives is when everyone dies.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's Destiny had a debate with Majid Nawaz, and Majid Nawaz was talking about a batch of vaccines that had like lead in it or something like that in Japan, and Destiny pointed out like that was a manufacturing defect. Basically, he just dismantled Majid's talking point right there, and I was like, good.
What do you think of the Jordan Peterson one about vaccines?
The debate with Destiny?
Yeah.
It was a while ago. I don't really recall what were they. I just remember this part. No, this is a vaccine. No, this is a vaccine. No, this is a vaccine.
I just listened to it. I just thought it was, I thought it was I don't know, funny. It was also just very Jordan Peterson's mind is a
little fried.
Yeah.
That's
sort of
fair.
in the drain.
All right, well, how do we wrap it up here?
All right. Good talk.
Shabadee shabadoo.
Shabadee shabadoo. In conclusion, shabadee shabadoo. We had a very productive centrist versus leftist conversation here today, I think. Good talk. You guys both stood your ground and had a good conversation.
And we met in the middle.
Well, I wouldn't say that. So, leftists, centrists, what's the horseshoe theory here, Brogan?
Yeah, who's the furthest right person you've ever gotten on this podcast? JJ McCullough?
I think so.
You're making us insecure now. No, it would have been. Well, it depends what you mean by right wing. Depends what you mean by we had a eco-fascist.
But everyone we've had on, everyone's on the same. Everyone agrees. Like when you talk to somebody, like very few people are totally outside the Overton window. Most people are like, yes, relative poverty is bad. We can like make society more equitable. These are the root problems in society right now.
Oh my God, it's almost like
right.
Radical centrism.
The incentive for fucking content creation is the only issue. Is the incentive to like, oh, this is my points. I believe this, and this, and this, and this, and that's why you can like me or hate me. Right?
Anyway, next episode, Nick Fuentes. All right, take out the gun, and that's the real horseshoe theory. Everyone actually agrees. I'll kill PF Young.
I'll kill
3,
Sam.
2, 1.
Wait.
Bam.